My little sister had gotten a giant teddy bear for Christmas, but she didn't want it, so I thought I might as well add it to the numerous pillows that line my bed. I'm a very creative person, so I named the bear Teddy. It was massive, about half of my height, and it had light gray fur that was softer than alpaca wool. It was a few weeks ago when I first noticed something strange with the stuffed bear. My imagination would often run wild, so I assumed that nothing was amiss. Despite that, I couldn't help but notice how Teddy would always seem to be looking at me, watching my every move. Whenever I worked on my desk, I would periodically glance at my bed to see his black, beady eyes staring into the deepest depths of my soul. Sometimes, I would even stare back. Teddy's irises were deeper than a bottomless pit. It seemed like I could get lost by simply looking at them. Whenever something like this happened, I would turn the bear 180 degrees so that its back would be facing me. Then, I would glance backward again. Eventually, while I wasn't looking, Teddy would turn around completely, sending chills down my spine. It couldn't have been gravity, nor could it have been the wind. Nobody else was in my room either. My first thought was that Teddy was alive, but that was absurd. This isn't Toy Story. Besides, Teddy was harmless. It was a little creepy that he was always looking at me, but he never made a hostile move. Even if he did, he was literally a teddy bear. What's he gonna do? Strangle me with his fluffiness? I could probably drop kick him to the moon. As long as he didn't body anyone, there wasn't any point in doing anything. One night, I woke up to find a few of my pillows had fallen off my bed. I reclaimed them, but Teddy was missing. Screw it, I thought. It was too much effort to turn on the lights, so I could just find him in the morning. It wasn't uncommon for my pillows to fall, and he probably just ended up somewhere I couldn't reach. And so, I drifted back into my peaceful slumber. Sure enough, Teddy was lying on the floor when I woke up in the morning. I let out a small giggle. There you are. And so, the day passed by as usual. When I went to bed that night, I woke up at around 1 a.m. again. None of my pillows had fallen except for Teddy. This time, I flicked my light switch and scanned my entire room, but he was nowhere to be found. What the heck? Where'd you go? I asked those two questions as if expecting a response from an inanimate object. With a sigh, I scratched my head and left my room to get a glass of water. My throat was drier than Death Valley. Before I could take a step into the kitchen, a muffled noise stopped me in my tracks. I sucked in a sharp breath that could have sliced my lungs if I weren't careful. After a few moments, the noise echoed again. It wasn't my overactive imagination. Naturally, I made the single most horrible decision that someone could make in a horror movie. I tiptoed towards the sound. Could you blame me? I was curious. Besides, chances were pretty low that a murderous monster was hiding in my house. I, for one, have never heard anybody encountering such a demon. Though, now that I think about it, it might just be survivorship bias. A dead person wouldn't be able to tell the tale of a murderous monster who broke into their house. It didn't take long for me to discover what made the noise earlier. It was my little sister. Her carrion red hair and green eyes were unmistakable, even in the darkness. She should have been asleep, but she was playing with Teddy in the living room. I must have not heard her thievish intrusion. Upon spotting me, my sister clutched Teddy into her stubby little arms and fled to her room. Go back to sleep. Jeez, if you wanted Teddy so bad, you could have just asked. With a jaw-breaking yawn, I returned to my bedroom and got the rest of my shut-eye for the night. When my alarm woke me up, it felt as if gravity had tripled in the time I had been unconscious. Getting out of bed was usually the most difficult part of my day. I eventually dragged myself to the bathroom, where I emptied my bladder and splashed some water on my face. As much as I hated the frigid faucet, it did a good job of waking my mind. Hey, have you seen your sister? It came from my mom, who was standing outside my bedroom door. No, I replied. She was playing with Teddy in the middle of the night, but she ran back to her room when I saw her. What time was this? Maybe around 1 a.m. Why was she awake? I don't know. I just know she stole Teddy and played with him for some reason. Weird. She's probably playing hide and seek or something. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. At that, my mom went back to searching. It's true that my sister had played these sort of games before, but she was notorious for her terrible hiding places. She once tried to mimic a standing lamp by putting the shade over her head. The only good hiding spot she ever found was behind the curtains. Maybe she happened to have found something impossible to uncover. Bernetta, where are you? Bernetta. My parents spent the entire morning trying to find my sister, but they came up empty-handed. It was the same thing with me. I couldn't find her anywhere. It was almost as if she had vanished from thin air. When I checked my sister's room, I found Teddy staring at me once again. That cocky little bastard was mocking me, I swear. Understandably, my parents panicked. They didn't waste any time filing a missing person report. After all this effort spent searching, I was sure that my sister would reveal herself eventually. But that wasn't the case. She was gone. Because of the whole ordeal, I was late for school that day. No worries though. I hadn't been tardy enough times to warrant any consequences. When I drove back home, my sister was still gone. My parents hadn't heard any news either. Out of instinct, I grabbed a kitchen knife and stomped into my sister's room. Sure enough, Teddy was still there. I stabbed the cursed pile of fluff 60 times and chopped off its head, creating a mound of stuffing all over the bed. Then, I took every last piece and shoved them into the trash bin outside. Tomorrow was trash pickup day, so the garbage truck would soon collect Teddy and incarnate him. Could you call my act of murder insane? Maybe. Who goes around stabbing teddy bears? Well, me. Apparently, it was a stupid idea in hindsight, but I wasn't thinking at the time. No matter what anybody tells me, I'm sure that bear had something to do with it. He did something to my sister. I know it. There was no way I was keeping that thing in my house. By the time I went to bed, a persistent nagging had kept me from falling asleep. Even if I slipped into unconsciousness, I could be plagued by nothing but nightmares. Maybe insomnia was a blessing in disguise. Suddenly, someone knocked on my door. "Who is it?" I asked. No answer. "Mom? Dad?" They usually got home pretty late, so they were probably checking on me. Another knock. "What do you guys want?" Silence. Then, a third knock. "Sheesh," I muttered, taking off my covers. Then, I froze. What if it wasn't my parents? But then, who could it be? They should be the only other people in the house. Unless... No. It couldn't have been Teddy. I chopped him to pieces. The garbage truck drivers were supposed to take him away the next morning. I retreated under my covers and waited. Damn my hyperactive imagination. This might just be a dream, for all I know. I recalled some tricks to find out if I was dreaming or not. Number 1. Count your fingers. I still had 5. Number 2. Inflict pain onto yourself. I pinched my cheek and instantly felt the sting. I wasn't dreaming. This was reality. By now, the knocks had stopped. I peeked my head out of my blanket and monitored the door. The knob turned and my heart skipped a beat. The hinges wailed as the door swung open, revealing a diminutive figure. It lumbered into my room without a sound. Cowering under my sheets would do no good to protect myself. My best option was to fight, but still, I couldn't move. Sheer terror had trapped me like a coffin. After a few moments, the figure hopped onto my bed. It was close enough that I could finally discern what it was. A stuffed bear. It was about 1/3 of Teddy's size, and it had red fur that matched the shade of a bloodied corpse. Worst of all, it had strikingly familiar emerald eyes. That was when I noticed another shadow next to me. There he was, sitting as still as a cadaver. Teddy. He met my gaze and said, "Won't you play with us?" Shout out to my superfans, Sweet Black Swan, Casey, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I really look forward to making more content for everyone.